All
Yeah,
right.
hi, David Lewis. Welcome back to the Stephen Shiels radio show. Gladysberry Jacqueline's pissed the Australian New South Wales people off. I was
Oh,
listening
Australian.
to your podcast, New Politics, and by the sounds of it, are you a Labor voter? Are you? Because I'm a Liberal voter.
I'm not affiliated
Yeah.
with I've been very disappointed in the quality of candidates that the Liberal Party have put up.
What?
And in leadership, and the philosophy of the Liberal Party at the moment is one that is destructive, I think, one that is not aimed at trying to benefit everybody, but only trying to benefit a few. I spent a lot of years at university lecturing Australian politics. So philosophies of the Liberal Party. And I think that the Liberal Party has lost its way, and the quality of its leadership in federal and in New South Wales, less so in South Australia and Tasmania, where we have two Liberal governments that are doing okay. We're seeing, and all parties, or both major parties, go through this, where you don't have as good a quality as you might want. There are dud candidates in Labor too. They haven't really got through to many leadership positions, and not to the point where they can influence, and there are good people in federal Labor, in the federal Liberal Party too. They tend to be shunted aside.
I have his name's Peter Sidgreaves. He's a Liberal member for Camden.
Yep. He's a good member.
Councillor. Yes, he's been on my podcast 3 times.
Oh, excellent.
I had Mike Freelander on once, but I don't know, he's taken off.
Yeah.
He's Labor. But no, I've always favoured the Liberal Party myself. But for a question for you, if the Labor government was handling this pandemic, do you think they would have done the same shit like Gladysberry Jacqueline's done?
No, not at all. I think they'd have been closer to Dan Andrews or Anna Palaszczuk, in that, or Stephen Marshall in South Australia, in that they follow health advice. Now, New South Wales is in a unique situation in that whenever there's a health crisis, in every other state, the chief health officer or the chief medical officer, it's the same job, just different position, takes over and tells the government, this is how we handle it. In New South Wales, the health minister remains at the top. And so the health minister, Brad Hazzard in New South Wales, with the support of Gladysberry Jacqueline, has tried to politically massage the impact of lockdown. This was the wrong...
I don't understand, because they're saying they're going to give fully vaccinated people freedom. Now, I was in Liverpool on Monday. I went for my dentist. The amount of traffic in Liverpool, David, was ridiculous. People walking around without a mask. The government's saying, oh, we got stay-at-home orders. The police minister's like, please stay home. You're going to get a fine. Stay home.
Yeah.
And I said to Grandma, why is there all this traffic? Even on the Northern Road where I am, there's all traffic now in the morning. And they're saying that we're in a full lockdown.
Yeah, it's the way they've treated the Southwest. I'm in one of the areas of concern. You are too, aren't you? You're in LGA of concern?
Yes, LGA of concern. Well, I don't know, Bringelly, I don't know.
You might be just out of it.
Yeah, anyway, I've seen some coppers driving, but they're not pulling people up for not wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's a weird. It hasn't. I think even the staunchest Liberal voters would concede that at least in part, some of it hasn't been handled as well as it might have been. You've got things like I think there's this belief that it's really just a mild virus, and for some people it is. And maybe even for most people it is. But we know that it can kill. We know that it can, and there's no pattern except someone's found out that it's more likely to kill poorer people than richer people, because of the nature of living poor. So lucky us on our $100 million a year, we'll be okay. But right, Steve? But
please stay home, David.
Yeah. And basically that is good advice. If you can stay home, do stay home. There's no need to go out. There's no need to get infected by the virus.
Check out my mask. I got it from the chemist. $10 and it's got a filter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
It fits properly. But
I've got that's mine. It's got a filter too, but it's yeah.
You should get a Darth Vader one.
We shouldn't we? Just say to everybody, "I am your father."
I'm fed up of the QR code checking in all the time, because it's like, if Service New South Wales got hacked, they've got all your personal information.
Well, they already had it, but
yeah,
the only issue I have with it is that the contact tracing has been overwhelmed. And the last I heard, and this may have changed, they were 4 days behind in trying to trace people.
It's ridiculous.
A lot of shops don't enforce it. They say, you must sign in, but if you're a 16-year-old at McDonald's, say, and a big aggressive man walks in and you say you got to scan in and he says no, what do you do there? Get out. Yeah, right. That'll end well.
I don't want to go up to my local shop and check in all the time. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. If there's a breakout at the shop, and of course people forget where they've gone too, so we can't sort of hold on, 3 days later, I did go and have a cup of coffee at that other place. It was, so that's the usefulness of it.
Is this going to last forever? Because
no,
and you hear on the news that they're talking about a vaccine passport, but I go to my GP, they say, "Oh, we've not heard anything yet."
Yeah, that's really problematic. And I'm not talking about, anti-vaxxers refusing to get it, but in terms of, if there's 300 people in a park, is the New South Wales Police's best time spent going around checking that everybody's been vaccinated?
No.
And as a musician, I suspect we're going to have one to be able to gig in clubs. Now, for staff and contractors, it's probably okay. Have you been vaccinated? Yes. But for the 30 or 40 people in the club's not going to want to turn people away.
No.
Or the pub or the venue is not going to want to turn people away, because and the big problem is that the government has failed to procure enough vaccinations at this point.
Look at it like this. I was watching wrestling in the United States. They already got a full crowd, and England's got a full crowd at the cricket. Life is normal. It's this is what we live in. Yeah,
I don't think we should live with the virus. I think we should have had a much better effort to get it to zero, as they have in Western Australia, as they have in Tasmania, as they have in South Australia.
What about Northern Territory?
Northern Territory, I can't remember. I think they have I think it's really only New South Wales and Victoria who haven't got it to zero, and that's because New South Wales reacted too slowly in shutting things down, and then shut down the wrong areas, and didn't enforce the lockdown, and basically started everything way too late and way too little, which is problematic.
No, it is problematic, David.
And Singapore got to 80%. They were having 30 cases a day and 80% vaccination. They're back up to 300 cases a day. They said, okay, you can open up. And they're back to 300 cases a day. And I don't know that this is living with the virus. I think this is the virus living with us. And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, go and get vaccinated. Exactly. Do it to be safe. And
it's all of that. It's all of that together. Vaccination isn't the magic bullet that will stop it, but it is it's a part of the whole thing. And we will get back to normal. Most pandemics last 2 to 3 years historically.
See, I don't understand the Spanish flu 100 years ago. There was no Zoom, Skype.
Yeah, it was really difficult. But there was no Zoom and Skype or much travel before that either. So, you still wrote letters to the people you wanted to keep in touch with. They had mandated mask wearing.
Have you read that book, The Fortunate Life by A.B. Facey?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Many years ago.
He caught the Spanish flu and he quarantined for 3 weeks.
Yep.
It's a must read for us Australians, because he talks about World War I and politics in World War I, and veterans were pissed off at the government in World War I.
Yes. Oh, they were.
Who was in power? Was it the Liberal or the Labor?
Both. What? Let me think. It is Andrew Fisher who declares war. He's Labor. And then Labor split in 1917 over the issue of conscription. And the Labor members who split out of the party, led by William Morris Hughes, Billy Hughes, forever a rat in Labor, in Labor history, form what's called the Nationalist Party. And Hughes becomes Prime Minister as a non-Labor party. They hold a referendum, and Australia rejects conscription. So it's not till Vietnam we send conscripted troops overseas.
How do you feel about Joe Biden pulling troops out of Afghanistan now?
It's complex. You ever read Sherlock Holmes?
No. Is that a soap opera?
No, Sherlock Holmes, the detective story.
Not yet. I got to put that on my reading list.
Okay, so the first Sherlock Holmes story is written in 1887, set in 1881. Study in Scarlet. It's a brilliant novel, and to your listeners, if you haven't read Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, read it. They're wonderful. One of the things I'm a member of the Sherlock Holmes Society in Sydney.
Is that a secret society?
Not terribly. If it's secret, we do a terrible job at it.
Do you go through initiation?
No.
It's a secret. No. I can't tell you, Dave.
I can't tell you that. That's right. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. But anyway, the novel opens up with the narrator, Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
Is an army doctor in Afghanistan, and he gets wounded and gets sent back to England and meets Sherlock Holmes. But that's 1881 that he's in Afghanistan. they should never have gone in the first place. The leaving was botched. America, I think, is doing a better job than Australia is, in that Biden has promised to get everyone who wants to get out, to get them out, whereas Australia has sort of said, "Oh, well, we've got as many out as we could. Bad luck."
Yeah. Do you think this Afghanistan war was all for nothing? It was all over oil.
Yeah, it was one of the less explainable wars that we've had. As it was, they spoke about, oh, we got to keep the Taliban out, but they deal with, because this is the nature of international relations. They deal with equally as abhorrent governments elsewhere, because you need to get access to the trade.
Yeah, because war is business, David.
Like
that's what it
Saudi
is.
Arabia, whose values, what war is business. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know. I think the solution would have been, when Trump announced them to go, would have been to start an orderly removal, including looking after those who had helped. And this is the problem. There were a lot of Afghan people who had who had helped the Western troops in really, and a lot of them have just been left there with a Taliban looking, with a government looking to arrest them and torture them and kill them.
It's pretty
punish
bad.
them. Yeah.
I don't understand trade affairs and world affairs and all that, and political affairs.
Yeah. It's worth studying. I'm not sure anybody quite understands Afghanistan. There was a border question back in the 19th century between Germany and Sweden, called the Schleswig-Holstein issue. And the British Prime Minister said, "Oh, there were only 3 people who ever understood the details. One went mad thinking about it. One died from the stress of thinking about it. The other was me, and I've quite forgotten." And I think I think that's a lot of the Afghanistani problems.
How do you feel about Donald Trump? What if Donald Trump was right all along, David?
Right about what?
Or what was going on about Joe Biden?
The evidence hasn't supported him, I think is fair to say. They keep pointing to areas where there was electoral fraud and Biden had done this, but there's actually no evidence. Now, I know that in a good crime, there is no evidence. But for such a complex and complicated fraud, there would be evidence. You couldn't pay off the couple of hundred people who would have.
Exactly. I mean, Donald Trump, every time I see Donald Trump on TV, he's like,
yeah.
He shaved Vince McMahon's head bald.
Yes.
Steve Austin stunned him.
Yeah. I think colorful is a good adjective for Donald Trump.
Would you play a game of golf with Donald Trump?
I don't think I could cheat as well. Apparently, he's a terrible cheat, and
What about Bill Clinton? Would you play? Would you rather Bill Clinton in a game of golf or Donald Trump or George Bush?
Well, Bush and Clinton would be they might cheat, but they'd be great company. Donald Trump.
Monica.
Well,
bring Monica Lewinsky along.
I doubt she'd go.
She'd go to a Tupperware party. Tupperware.
We'll talk about Monica at another point. A very sad story, that one, ultimately.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton would go to a seance meeting.
That's right.
Donald Trump would go to a mining meeting for oil. American politics is complicated.
Yes, it is complicated.
Funny, the G7 summit. Scott Morrison went to the G7 summit.
Yes, Australia is allowed to go as an observer.
Oh.
Now, there was a point where Australia was a member of the G7.
When was this?
I think under Kevin Rudd, we were the best economy in the world at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But when things righted out, we dropped back to 10 or 11 or something like that. Still very high.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Morrison, of course, shouldn't have gone to the G7 because there was nothing that he did there that couldn't have been done over Zoom. And, as much as I'd like to go down and sit in the studio in front of that sign, Zoom is a very practical way of doing this type of stuff. So
I thought he actually flew there in person.
He did. He did. He should have just any meetings he could have done on Zoom.
Imagine me at the G7 summit.
It would shake things up somewhat, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'd host a podcast at the G7 summit.
Well, let's see if we can do that.
We can talk about China, David.
We could. We could. China, it's a big country to the north of us. Hello.
Exactly. Like, what I don't understand? You got North Korea as a communist country.
Yes.
Why are they still communist after Joseph Stalin?
Well, this does get into philosophical questions of what is communism. It gets into question, and a lot of countries are nominally communist because it gives an idea of what they're striving to be, I think is fair to say. China is really a free market economy with an authoritarian government. North Korea is an authoritarian government. Don't forget, North Korea came out of the Korean War, which was to stop the spread of communist ideas into South Korea. They were fairly successful at that, but North Korea succeeds and has had this family basically run it since then. Of the latest, Kim Jong, the Kims. His father was Kim Jong-un, and so they call themselves communists. They're not really communists, and the comparison to Stalin wouldn't bother them at all because he's very cruel. He's very authoritarian.
Like, if you look up images of North Korea on the internet, it just looks so depressing.
I'm sure that there are nice times happening.
Exactly, but this is the world with North Korea, David.
Yeah.
And some parts of Wuhan, China, too, just look very depressed and polluted as well in China.
China is a massive country with a huge population, so the poverty is much more noticeable, I think. It's like going to, and they don't really have social safety net, where if you're not earning money or if you're homeless, actually, I think China's okay. I think China will give you a house, but from a Western perspective, it looks grim. Again, not having lived in China, I'd hate to say, oh, everybody there hates it and it's terrible, and have one of your listeners say, well, I lived there for 20 years and it was wonderful, and I'm thinking of moving back.
I'd love to go to China and see the Great Wall of China.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I really do. I want to go
to
Japan, China.
I've been to Japan. It's a wonderful country.
Oh, it's so expensive when you exchange the Australian dollar to the yen, isn't it?
No, not really.
Tokyo's an expensive city too, I've heard.
Tokyo is about as expensive as Sydney.
No way.
Yeah, like I was surprised. I always heard that it was really expensive, but Sydney's an expensive city, and Tokyo, and it's been some years since I've been there, but it cost about what a week in Sydney would have cost if you were holidaying there. Once you'd converted the yen, might have been a little bit more, but it wasn't hideously expensive.
Is the Australian dollar powerful than the yen, or are we under? Because I know we're weak against the US dollar and the Swiss franc.
Yeah, I think we're weak against the yen too. But the yen is done in tens of thousands. So whereas we're done in tens and tens and hundreds. They're done in and 25,000 yen. You think, oh my god, and then you realize it's $4.50 or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact. Or 25 might have been $100. Do you know what I mean? But
exactly, David.
Excuse me.
But yeah, the world economy is expensive too. But I just wanted to say, I really want to thank you for coming on the Stephen Shiels radio show today. I've tried a new background. I'm glad you like it.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Steve. Really is.
I'd like to jump on your podcast one day if I can. I know I'm a right wing supporter. I probably want to share my views on the right.
Yeah, no. We haven't had many guests, but when we do, I'll let you know.
No, but yeah. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, just stay safe, everyone, and don't be reckless, and we will get through this, and things will be better when we get through it.